Valorant's the cool new tac shooter that's not like those other games. And I'm absolutely loving it. But one thing has been bugging me, and that's that Valorant's guns sometimes feel a little off. And a lot of people seem to be under the same impression. So I wanted to get to the bottom of this and see what was up. I started by jumping into Counter-Strike.
Valorant isn't Counter-Strike!
Yes, I understand, but let me...
Not the same game!
Could you please just let me...
Comparing the two is illegal!
I'm being very patient, trying to explain something to you.
Different game means that you can't all learn from each other.
Anyways, I jumped into CSGO since I wanted a good baseline for our Valorant test, and since Counter-Strike's been around for, about 2 decades, I figured it was a pretty good baseline. I wanted to test 2 things in particular: the spray patterns and the recoil reset. These 2 things, in my opinion, contribute the most to the feel of attack shooters' guns. So we'll start with sprays. I started by jumping into the Aimbot's workshop map on Counter-Strike, loaded in the walls, getting right up next to them, and just started spraying down the wall. The spawned walls are about 20 meters away from the actual walls, making them perfect for our tests. Why, you ask? Well, 15 to 20 meters is generally where your spray control is really going to matter. And Valorant's spray wall only goes from 5 to 10 to 20, not 15 unfortunately. So we shot that about 10 times. I screenshot the sprays and loaded them into Photoshop, and here's what I got. As you can see, there is a beautiful consistency to these. I then mark each of these from 1 to 6 in Roy G. Biv respectively. Well, there's only 6, so I guess Roy G. Biv. Even though there's a few outliers, overall it looks pretty good. Next step is to stack them all on top of each other to get a general idea of each shot's deviation. First shot's always going to be in the same spot, so let's get on to shot number 2. It's a nice little tight grouping that's up and to the right. Next group goes back left a little bit, but it's still pretty tight. We notice the 4th grouping is starting to get a little spread out, but it's still pretty good. Group 5 is noticeably spreading out though, and that trend continues for Group 6. So as we can see, as you continue to hold the trigger, each shot gains more and more deviation, but surprisingly still looks pretty manageable. Now that we've got our baseline, let's head on over to Valorant. For Valorant, we're going to be testing both the Vandal and the Phantom, since they're both supposed to be the bread and butter weapons, similar to how the AK and the M4 are in Counter-Strike. We didn't test the M4 because, from experience, I know the M4 spread is better, and we only wanted to get a general baseline. We're not directly comparing these weapons, so we didn't need to. In addition to testing both the Phantom and the Vandal, we will be testing the ADS sprays as well, since that may offer better results. First, we'll start with testing the hipfire and, oh boy. At first glance, I will admit they don't look great, but I won't pass judgment just yet. Like Counter-Strike, we stacked them and tacked them. The second grouping looks a bit ugly, but it's still pretty solid. Same for the third. But then we get to the 4th. The Phantom's 4th group looks pretty rough, but isn't the worst thing. I can't say the same for the Vandal, though. The Vandal's 4th shot just seems to get really away from it, getting a generous amount of distance away from the 3rd shot. And that trend continues into the 5th and 6th shots for both the Phantom and the Vandal. It honestly looks like they're practicing social distancing. After the 3rd shot for the Vandal and the 4th for the Phantom, it just looks like you're praying to whatever god you believe in that the next shot can hit. These are really bad looking sprays, but there may be a saving grace in the ADS. Now, ADS is supposed to tighten the spread of these weapons at the cost of rate of fire. Tighter spread? Slower rate of fire? Sounds like a recipe for success to me. Let's have a look-see, and... Well, it does look better. Let's stack them all on top of each other and see what the damage is. My assumption is that shots 1 to 3 in the Vandal and 1 to 4 in the Phantom are still gonna look good. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happened... Wait, what's going on with the Phantom? While it doesn't necessarily look worse than the hipfire, it certainly doesn't look better. The Vandals actually looks better somehow. What about number 5? Oh no. Oh no! Yeah, somehow we ended up with the last 2 shots on both guns being worse than their hipfire counterparts. Yes, these are the correct pictures. I did this all twice because I was convinced that I messed up at some point. But nope, the same results happened. Higher level players rarely, if ever, use ADS, and it isn't hard to see why. Yeah, you get an extra shot that's a little bit tighter, but after that, nuh-uh. And all that at the cost of your rate of fire? You're better off just spraying and praying than using this. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that Valorant sprays are random. This isn't true. We can see from all of these that there are indeed spray patterns. It's just got an absurd amount of deviation each consecutive shot, making it feel just wholly uncontrollable. Okay, maybe these sprays are bad because the recoil recovery is better, right? In Valorant, the Vandal has a recovery period of 0.375 seconds, and the Phantom a recovery period of 0.35 seconds. CSGO's AK is a bit shorter at 0.4 seconds. Wait, that can't be right. Yes, after looking into it and testing it myself, Valorant's recovery periods are actually shorter. So why does it still feel bad? My only guess is that the AK doesn't need to fully reset in order to become accurate again. And from testing, yeah, it really does feel that way. Fast burst fires from the AK still maintain accuracy, whereas fast burst fires from the Phantom and the Vandal felt like you might as well have just been spraying anyways, both hip and ADS. There's gotta be something, right? There's gotta be something else. Well, there is. Heads are big. Yep, that's it. Everyone's just got neocortex heads. Yeah. A lot of people say that the felt randomness of Valorant sprays is to help new players, stating that new players don't want to, / won't, learn spray patterns. That this randomness gives them a, quote, fighting chance against a more skilled player by potentially getting a lucky shot to land on the enemy head. This point feels absurd for a few reasons. One, even when you're just holding down the trigger, your crosshair will go up. A new player is gonna notice this and are going to realize that they need to pull their crosshair down in order to stay on the target, effectively doing a small amount of recoil control. Two, if a lower skilled player is going up against a higher skilled player, the higher skilled player will more often than not destroy the lower skilled player. And three, the very large amount of deviation actually makes it statistically way less likely that the stray bullet will hit, since it's a small bullet that has the potential to go in a ludicrous amount of spots, even if Valorant's headshot hitboxes are actually CS source hitboxes. I do not believe randomness is the way to appeal to new players. I feel like making sprays more consistent is the way to go, not less. I mean, Call of Duty's bullets go literally where you point without question, and I'd consider that the most noob-friendly game. Playing Valorant often makes me want to go play Counter-Strike because the weapons there feel far more consistent than they do in Valorant. I feel like I have more control, and thus feel like what I'm doing in the game is up to me and not up to the game's RNG. Now, with that all being said, do I believe weapons should remain the same as they are now? Of course not. I just did a rant about it. Weren't you just listening? But should Valorant take the plunge and just go full CSGO? But no. I believe the perfect weapon tuning is somewhere between Valorant's current state and CSGO's current state. But do I think it will happen? Well, Riot has stated on multiple times that they won't do anything if it hurts the game's competitive integrity. And since this would affect high-tier play, we're probably locked in. It just feels like the guns are at odds with the rest of the game's design philosophy. The buy menus are simpler, utility is easier to use, blinds are well telegraphed. But the guns? They just feel so punishing. It's not like they're impossible to use. I'm just saying that they feel bad compared to the rest of the game and the games that came before it. The game seems to put more emphasis on being an aim god rather than using your agent and their abilities efficiently. And that feels bad. I really like this game, but I feel like its current weapon balance is hurting the game more than helping. And I also feel that Riot's unwillingness to do certain things is ultimately going to kill the game. And that really hurts. Sorry to end this on a kind of weird note, but oh well. If you made it this far, good job, proud of you, sat through a lot. I think this is an ongoing conversation that we should all be a part of, so please leave a comment, start a discussion. Well, I mean, do whatever you want. I'm not your dad. Anyway, see ya. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to do those things other YouTubers say to do. I'll be streaming after this video goes live, so if you want to come on down and have a chat or, call me a poopy head, feel free. And, thanks again for watching. Peace.